Hey crafty babes, it's Andrea, and I am doing something new, brand new, with your guys' help. I am doing a Q&A. So I asked on Instagram and on my Facebook page what kinds of questions you guys had for me. So I'm really excited to answer some. I don't think I'm gonna get through all of them. I wanna keep these videos not super lengthy, so but I will get to all of them, and I think what we'll do is just break them up into some smaller videos so that I can get all of your questions answered. And I'm really excited. So I don't officially have a name for this yet, but I was thinking of just calling it Ask Andrea. But maybe one of the things I could ask you guys is to come up with a cool name, if I don't find one first. So anyway, I am gonna go through a couple of the questions and rattle off some answers. So I'm gonna start with an easy one. So from Kelly Winnell from Facebook, she asks 3 different questions. So she says, when do you craft, night or day? Do you need something with you? Music, chocolate, coffee. And 3, have you ever been in such a creative rut that you almost threw it all away and stopped? So first question is, when do I scrap? I scrap basically on the weekends. So I work a full-time job, and when I get home, I'm typically not super crafty. I do some things, but I typically don't do my project life or scrapbooking. I'll do maybe some smaller projects, like maybe planning, but typically weeknights are just chilling, watching TV, homework, you know, that kind of stuff. But during the weekends, I usually craft all day. So my scrap space is out here in the open, so I really have the freedom to kind of just sit here any time of the day when we're all home and just hanging out here, and that's the best. Do I need something with me? Always music. I cannot watch movies or TV while I'm scrapbooking because I'm such a visual person that I will get super distracted. So somebody else actually asked a question about, I think it's Sue's Fish, and she asked if I get distracted with being out in the middle of everything. And yes, it does happen. Like if Matt comes out here and he puts on a Marvel movie or something, I'm like staring at the TV and then I'm not getting anything done, and I'm kind of just pushing paper around and not really thinking about it. So I can get really distracted. So I love listening to playlists that I have created. I'm a huge Spotify user, so I love music. And usually I don't snack the whole time that I scrapbook because it would be out of control if I did that. So I stop and take lunch breaks, or, you know, I eat, but I love to have my dark chocolate with sea salt. So that's what I snack on. And then I also either have iced tea or ice water, to kind of depending on the time of the day. But I don't drink coffee, so iced tea is it for me. And then, have I ever been in such a creative rut that I almost threw it all in and stopped? So the answer to that is no, never. So since 1998, I have been scrapbooking, and it has been my #1. And I have always dabbled in other things, but there has only been a time when I've taken about a 4-month break from scrapbooking, and it was really just because I couldn't afford to develop my pictures. So I let some time go by before I could develop pictures, and then I, right back into it. So it's always been of the forefront of my craftiness. So let's see. What else do we have? Another one from Facebook is from Kim Smith. Hi, Kim. She also has a couple of questions. So what does my family think about my craftiness? I think they think that it's very normal because they've never known me not doing it. So I started scrapbooking in '98, and I had my first kid in 2001, and I've always been scrapbooking. So I think for them, it's just very normal. It's not abnormal for them to see me obviously sitting here or, being crafty. So I think it's very normal. I think Matt too is very appreciative of not just that I have a hobby, but that it's meaningful, and that there's something that our kids can look at. See, both of us are artistic people, and he's a filmmaker, so he, has his own form of documenting, and I think we both can appreciate that side of each other's passions. So I think everybody in my family is cool with it. And especially like my parents are very supportive. My mom is where I got all my craftiness from. So they totally support all of my craftiness. And then her second question is, have you ever thought about creating your own podcast or video series, specifically showcasing how I work projects for a week? So that is kind of a yes and kind of a no. So I would love to be able to do more of a consistent series type of thing on my YouTube channel. Podcasting is something that I really enjoyed because I've been able to be on a podcast and I really enjoyed it. But I don't think I'd want to start my own. That's not really where my passion is. I think that I would end up spending a little bit too much time doing that. And I'm not, I don't know what the word is, but I think I'd rather be a guest on a podcast. And if I had more time, I would definitely want to do more consistent, different kinds of series like these kinds of things on my YouTube channel. So let's see what else. Oh, she actually asked a third question. What's my current favorite project? My current favorite project is definitely my personal album. And it's because I can be really free and have smaller chunks. So with Project Life, I do weekly. So a week's worth of photos, I'm always working with, within that time frame. But the personal album, it's a smaller 6x8, and I can really go kind of not event by event, but I can just do like a selfie and a story, so those are the kinds of things they get done really quickly, and I can use super girly stuff, and I really like that project. Let's see. Danielle Higginbottom says, do you have a scrappy budget? And that's a really good question because no, I don't. I basically have no money to spend on scrapbook supplies. I am so extremely grateful for the design teams that I'm on because they provide basically all of the supplies that I really need. I mean, obviously I want so much. So what I end up doing is if I get paid for scrappiness, or if, I get paid for different kinds of things that I do, and that all feeds into PayPal. So when I have money in PayPal, that's what I'll use so that it doesn't really come out of the house budget. But sometimes I do say, hey, I'd like, to spend $50 here. And, we just talk about it as a married couple. And if that's okay, then that's okay. So, but I do not spend a certain dollar amount, and I don't have a certain budget set aside for scrappiness. No, I do not. Where do I find inspiration and must have scrappy items? Let's see. Where do I find my inspiration? Okay, and this is going to sound kind of weird. I find inspiration from other people's stuff, obviously. I think we all do because we can all see somebody else's something working with, the photos that we have. But I also like to look back at some of my own stuff because I don't want to try to be like anybody else. And my style, although I really adore lots of different styles, like the really artsy, the really mixed media stuff. I love the way that looks, but I personally I don't feel comfortable doing that. So I tend to look at my own things because obviously if I am enjoying this craft, I enjoy what I make. Therefore, I should be able to go look back at my own stuff and find something that I did previously and alter it or, play around with something similar. So, but typically I am the most inspired by product. So the product is really what drives kind of how I lay out a Project Life page or a layout. So the product is really what drives me because they have sentiments that are things that I'm thinking but sometimes can't articulate on my own. I'm also super inspired by color because the manufacturers have just this beautiful way of coordinating different colors that I wouldn't normally put together. So I like to take what manufacturers are putting out there, and then even though that may not be typically in my comfort zone, I'm going to work through it because I like a challenge. Okay, so what else do we have? I'm gonna flip over to Instagram and look at some of the comments here. So a couple people asked, let's see, Faith Abigail asked, and Jessica Cole Creates also from Instagram asked about tips for creating when life is busy. So I have 2 boys and they are 15 and 8. I have a husband, a full-time job, a house, a dog. So life is, life is life. Our kids are not in a lot of extracurricular things. They have friends that they hang out with and they have hobbies that they like, but nothing that we're demanded to do. So really, our life is not as busy as a lot of people's. So we don't have a lot of plans on the weekends. Weekends are typically for being at home and just kind of hanging around the house and doing, things and being together and stuff like that. So that's where all of my scrappiness gets to happen, is on the weekends typically. So the other part of that is it's a passion. So it's something that I really, really, really enjoy doing. So I'm going to make time for that. There are things that I would love to do. Like I would love to read more, but it's not a passion. So I tend to not do that because it's not my favorite thing to do. So, when you find something that you really, really, really love, like I love scrapbooking, you make time for it and you find that you just make it a priority over something else, like, cleaning house, for example. That's kind of something that I don't want to do. Okay, what else? Let's see. So she says, I don't have kids yet and I'm already so busy. I can't imagine how I'm going to fit it in once kids are in the picture. So I've been scrapbooking for a long time and there are all obviously lulls, so when my kids were really young, I wasn't scrapbooking for hours and hours and hours like I can do now. Now they're 15, they're 8, they're kind of doing their own thing. They don't need me as much, they don't require, hours and hours of me entertaining them or those kinds of things. We play together, we tickle, we chase, we go for walks, we do plenty of things. And I'm not locked up in a room or anything. So it does make it a little easier when they get older. But there was definitely a time when the time in between scrapbook time to scrapbook time was, 2 to 3 weeks. Sometimes I'd go without being able to sit down and scrapbook. So that is going to happen. But the little ones, they only stay little for so long. So, I've always tried to kind of make a nice balance between making sure you're not just always documenting the memories, but that you're also, being there and creating. I don't want scrapbooking to take away from my kids' time, but sometimes, when they're off in their rooms playing their games or, playing at a friend's house, it's like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. So that's always good, especially when they get older and they start to need you a little less. So since I kind of wanted to keep these short and concise, I am going to wrap up this first Q&A. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I really would love to know if you have more questions. I'm gonna get going on another video that answers some more questions. So that way we can, have more questions and more answers. So I will talk to you guys later.